The call and response. The Theron mining colony on Proxima Valorum VI trembled under assault. Station Commander Zeltok watched in horror as his security feeds showed corridors filling with a silvery fog that seemed to have a mind of its own. Where the fog touched organic matter, it consumed and multiplied. "Containment breach in quadrants 7 through 12, shouted his second-in-command, eyes wide with panic. "The fog is adapting to our countermeasures. It's learning." Zeltok's forearms moved in practiced patterns across the emergency console as he sealed yet another section of the massive underground mining complex. A display showed 15,000 colonists still alive, their life signs clustered in emergency shelters throughout the lower levels. Just yesterday, that number had been 37,000. "Sir," his communications officer spoke with a tremor in her voice. "High Command has responded to our distress signal." Hope fluttered in Zeltok's chest cavity. "Put them through." The stern face of Admiral Vexnar filled the screen, his ceremonial head crests fully extended, a bad sign. "Commander Zeltok, your situation has been assessed. The Galactic Council has classified the nanoplague on your world as a Class 5 extinction-level threat." "Then you're sending help?" Zeltok asked. The Admiral's outer eyes blinked slowly. "I am informing you that Proxima Valorum 66 has been placed under maximum quarantine. 3 dreadnoughts are en route to sterilize the system. Your sacrifice will be honored in the Hall of Necessary Loss." "Sterilize?" Zeltok's voice cracked. "Admiral, we have 15,000 survivors. The shelters can hold for at least. The nanoplague cannot be allowed to spread. Quarantine protocols are absolute." The Admiral's voice softened marginally. "I am sorry, Commander. Your people will be remembered." The screen went dark. Zeltok stared at his reflection in the blank display, forearms hanging limp at his sides. Around him, his bridge crew had fallen silent, processing their death sentence. "How long?" he finally asked. His tactical officer consulted her screens. "Council dreadnoughts will arrive in 36 hours. Sterilization will begin immediately, upon their arrival. 36 hours to live." Zeltok turned to his communications officer. "Send our distress call again. Maximum power. All frequencies, all languages. Anyone else might hear us." As the signal beamed outward into the void, none of them expected an answer. The Galactic Council's authority was absolute, its quarantine protocols unbreakable. Across the emptiness of space, 17 light hours away, Captain Maya Chen of the United Earth vessel Defiant was reviewing maintenance reports when an alert chimed on her console. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're picking up a distress signal, non-human origin." Chen frowned. The Defiant was a long-range explorer, one of humanity's newest vessels, tasked with mapping this sector for potential colonization. "They weren't equipped for rescue operations. Put it through," she ordered. The alien language was unfamiliar, but the translation matrix quickly decoded the basics. Mining colony, unknown biological threat, survivors trapped, council quarantine, ordered, sterilization imminent. "Council quarantine?" Lieutenant Commander Jackson asked from the tactical station. "What does that mean?" Chen's expression darkened. In the 3 decades since humanity had ventured into the stars, they'd learned that the Galactic Council, the alliance of elder species that governed most of the known galaxy, had efficient but ruthless protocols for containing threats. "It means they're going to vaporize the planet rather than risk whatever's down there spreading," she said quietly. Silence fell across the bridge. "How many survivors?" Chen asked. "Signal indicates 15,000 colonists still alive," replied the communications officer. "And the council's just writing them off?" Jackson's voice rose in disbelief. Chen drummed her fingers on her armrest. Earth had not yet been granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Their application had been pending for years, delayed by what the Council called concerning behavioral assessments of humanity. "What are our orders, Captain?" asked her first officer, Commander Abara. In her mind, Chen could hear the diplomatic warnings. "Don't interfere with Council business. Follow established protocols, demonstrate that humans can be trusted to obey galactic law." Her career, possibly Earth standing with the Council, hung in the balance. "Plot a course to Proxima Valorum 6, she said firmly. "Maximum speed." "Captain?" Abra's eyes widened. "The Council has quarantined." "I heard," Chen cut him off, "and I can't follow that order. Log my decision as a direct violation of protocol. If you must, Commander. I'll face the consequences later. The Council dreadnoughts will destroy us if we interfere," Jackson warned. "Then we'd better get there first," Chen replied, her jaw set. "And have a damn good plan ready when they arrive." The bridge crew exchanged glances, then turned to their stations with renewed purpose. Chen knew what they were thinking. This could end their careers, even their lives. But none hesitated. As the Defiant accelerated to full speed, Chen ordered all departments to prepare for a rescue operation, unlike any in human history. They had 30 hours to reach the colony and evacuate 15,000 aliens before the Council's dreadnoughts arrived. Across the ship, preparations began. In the medical bay, Dr. Eliza Okafor reviewed xenobiology files on Therans, their physiology, medical requirements, and potential vulnerabilities to whatever threat had triggered the quarantine. In engineering, Chief Torres calculated how many they could possibly evacuate, devising emergency accommodation plans. In the armory, Marine Captain Wei and his teams readied for ground deployment into an unknown threat environment. "Any information on what we're dealing with?" Wei asked over the comm as Chen briefed the senior staff. "The signal describes it as a consuming fog, some kind of nanoplague that devours organic matter and uses it to multiply," Chen replied. "The Council considers it a Class 5 threat." "That's their highest classification," Ibarra noted grimly. Chen nodded. "Which means we need to be extraordinarily careful. Anyone who goes planetside will need full containment protocols. One speck of this thing getting back to Earth could be catastrophic." "Captain," Jackson interrupted, "I've been analyzing the colonial defense grid. There's something odd about the pattern of the nanoplague's spread." He displayed a time-lapse of the colony's security grid failing section by section. It didn't spread randomly, Chen realized. It targeted critical systems first, then containment measures, then population centers. Almost like it knew what it was doing, Jackson agreed. A chill ran through the bridge. This was no ordinary biological threat. This was something with intelligence, strategy, purpose. 27 hours later, the Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Proxima Valorum system. Sensors immediately detected the Council dreadnoughts, still 9 hours out but closing fast. "Open a channel to the colony," Chen ordered. The haggard face of Commander Zeltok appeared on screen, all 4 eyes widening at the sight of humans. "Who? What are you?" "Captain Maya Chen of the Earth vessel Defiant," she replied. "We received your distress call." "Earth?" Zeltok seemed confused. "You're not Council?" "No. We're here to help. The Council dreadnoughts are 9 hours behind us." Disbelief and hope warred on the aliens' features. "Why would you risk yourselves? The nanoplague is—" "Commander," Chen interrupted gently, "I need to know everything about this threat if we're going to get your people out alive." As the Defiant moved into orbit, Zeltok transmitted all data on the nanoplague. What they learned was disturbing. The fog had first appeared after miners broke into a sealed chamber deep below the surface, a chamber with technology far more advanced than anything the Council races possessed. "It was an ancient vault," Zeltok explained. "Our archaeologists believed it predated even the Forerunners." Chen exchanged glances with her science officer. Humanity had heard rumors of the Forerunners, a species said to have ruled the galaxy millions of years ago before mysteriously vanishing. "And the nanoplague was inside this vault?" Chen asked. "No." Zeltok's voice dropped. "The vault was empty. But there were warnings inscribed on the walls. Our linguist only partially translated them before the fog appeared. It came from nowhere, as if it had been waiting." The Defiant's bridge grew quiet as the implications sank in. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was a weapon, or a guardian, left to protect whatever had once been in that vault. "Commander," Chen said finally, We're sending down shuttles with environmental containment equipment. We'll evacuate your people in groups, but we need to move quickly. The fog has surrounded all access points, Zeltok replied. It seems to anticipate our movements. Captain Wei of the Marines stepped forward. Then we make new access points. Commander, what's the thinnest point in the rock between your shelters and the surface? As plans rapidly formed, Council protocols were discarded in favor of human ingenuity. Marine teams prepared to deploy with mining equipment to tunnel directly to the shelters, bypassing the fog-filled corridors. Medical teams readied massive isolation wards aboard the Defiant. Engineers devised emergency force field generators that might repel or contain the nanoplague long enough to evacuate survivors. When the first Marine shuttle streaked into the planet's atmosphere, sensors throughout the system detected their descent. On the approaching Council dreadnoughts, alien commanders watched in disbelief. "Impossible," murmured Admiral Vexnar as reports flowed in. "No species would deliberately breach a Class 5 quarantine." His tactical officer's appendages trembled slightly. "The vessel is registered to Earth, Admiral. They are human." Vexnar's head crests flattened in concern. The Council had been debating humanity's application for membership for years. Some advocated for their inclusion, impressed by their technological progress and adaptability. Others warned that humans were unpredictable, reckless, even dangerous. "Open a channel," he ordered. On the Defiance Bridge, Chen received the incoming transmission with grim determination. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, his ceremonial crests now fully erect with authority. "Human vessel," he began. "You have violated a Council quarantine zone. This is a Class 5 extinction level event. Withdraw immediately or be considered contaminated and destroyed along with the planet." Chen stood straight, meeting the alien's gaze. "Admiral, I am Captain Maya, Chen of the United Earth vessel Defiant. We are conducting a rescue operation for the surviving colonists. Rescue is impossible. The nanoplague cannot be contained. That is why sterilization was ordered." "With respect, Admiral," Chen replied. "Humans don't accept impossible. We're already making progress." As if to punctuate her words, the first reports came in from the surface. Marine teams had successfully drilled through to one of the shelters and were evacuating survivors to containment shuttles. The Admiral's outer eyes blinked rapidly. "You cannot transport potentially contaminated beings off-planet. The risk is being managed," Chen interrupted. "Our containment protocols exceed Council standards." "This is not your decision to make, human." Vexnar's voice rose. "The Council has ruled." Chen's expression hardened. 15,000 lives are at stake, Admiral. Where I come from, that means we try everything before we give up. Your dreadnoughts will arrive in 9 hours. If we haven't evacuated everyone by then, well, we'll face that when it happens." She cut the transmission, turning to her anxious bridge crew. "Captain," Ibarra said quietly, "when those dreadnoughts arrive, they'll destroy this entire system, us included." Chen nodded. "Then we have 9 hours to prove that humanity brings something to the galaxy that even the Council needs." She tapped her comm. "All departments, this is the captain. We have 9 hours to accomplish the impossible. Let's show the galaxy what humans can do." On the surface of Proxima Velorum 66, the first confrontation with the nanoplague was already underway. Marine Captain Wei watched through his helmet cam as the silvery fog tested the edges of their environmental fields, probing for weaknesses with unsettling intelligence. "It's watching us," he reported. "Learning," and as the first shuttles of survivors lifted off, the entire galaxy held its breath, witnessing something unprecedented. Humans, the newest species in the cosmic community, deliberately charging into a threat that had the eldest races running. In fear, no one could predict what would happen next. Defiance and revelation. Marine Captain Amir Wei had faced combat on 3 worlds, but nothing like this. The silvery nanoplague surged against their portable force fields, testing, probing, thinking. For each tactic his team deployed, the fog developed a counter within minutes. "It's adapting to our shield frequencies," reported Sergeant Rodriguez. monitoring the containment equipment. 20 minutes before penetration at this rate, Wei grimaced behind his sealed helmet. They had already evacuated nearly 2,000 colonists from this shelter, but 3,000 remained. Adjust the modulation patterns, random sequences, no predictable algorithms. Already tried that, sir. It's learning faster than our systems can adapt. Wei watched the fog ripple against the barrier, mesmerized by its fluid intelligence. This was no mindless threat. It was analyzing them. Captain, Lieutenant Park called from the tunnel entrance. The second extraction team is pinned down in Quadrant 7. The fog found a way through their shields. Wei's blood ran cold. Casualties? None yet. They've deployed backup barriers, but they're surrounded. Wei made a snap decision. Rodriguez, prepare an electromagnetic pulse charge. Maximum power. Sir, that will fry our own shields too. I know. Time it with the tunnel team. We'll create a momentary corridor and rush the remaining colonists through. As preparations were made, Wei studied the fog's behavior, noting how it concentrated mass where their defenses weakened. There was purpose in its movements, not just mindless consumption. Above them in orbit, the situation aboard the Defiant was growing equally tense. 5 hours had passed since their arrival. They had evacuated nearly 7,000 colonists, but the operation was slowing as the nano-plague adapted to their tactics. Captain Chen paced the bridge, reviewing reports from the surface teams. The fog is getting smarter, she muttered. It's more than that, said Dr. Okafor from Medical. I've been studying the patterns. Captain, I don't think this is a weapon at all. Chen turned to the doctor's display, which showed microscopic images of the fog particles. These aren't just destructive nanites, Okafor explained. They're information gatherers. Every being they consume, they analyze, they're collecting data. A chill ran down Chen's spine. You're saying it's studying us? I think it's been studying everything on that planet. And now it's studying how we respond to it. Before Chen could process this revelation, her tactical officer interrupted. Captain, the Council dreadnoughts have increased speed. New arrival estimate, 3 hours, 20 minutes. Time was running out. In the isolation ward, Commander Zeltok had recovered enough to speak with Chen. The four-armed alien still seemed bewildered by the humans' actions. Why risk yourselves? He asked again. Your species is not even in the Council. These are not your people. Chen considered her answer carefully. On Earth, we have a concept called the duty to rescue. If someone is in danger and you can help, you're obligated to try, stranger or not. Zeltok's outer eyes blinked in confusion. Even at risk to yourself? That is, inefficient for species survival. Maybe, Chen admitted. But it's what makes us human. The Council believes your kind is dangerous, Zeltok said quietly. That your unpredictability makes you a threat to galactic stability. Chen smiled grimly. Right now, that unpredictability is your people's only hope. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from the surface. Captain Wei's team had discovered something in the deepest shelter, the colony's chief archaeologist, barely alive, clutching a data crystal. She insisted this reaches you, Wei reported. Says it changes everything. When the data was transmitted to the Defiant, it revealed the complete translation of the warnings found in the ancient vault. What they read stunned everyone. This isn't a weapon, Chen breathed. It's a library. According to the translation, the nanoplague was a data repository, the accumulated knowledge of the Forerunners, encoded into self-replicating, adaptive particles. It wasn't consuming life forms, it was scanning them, adding their biological and cultural information to its collection. The warnings weren't about the fog, Zeltok realized. They were instructions for communicating with it. Chen's mind raced. If it's collecting data, can we talk to it? Dr. Okafor frowned. Theoretically, yes. But how? The answer came from an unexpected source. The Defiant's youngest ensign, Zoe Lee, who specialized in information theory. It's a database, she said, her eyes bright with sudden insight. and every database needs a query interface. Working frantically, Lee developed a method to encode communications into patterns that the nanoplague might recognize. They would essentially hack into the ancient library system, asking it to recognize them not as specimens to be studied, but as authorized users. On the surface, the desperate gambit began. Marine teams set up specialized transmission equipment, broadcasting Lee's coded signals directly into the fog. For long, tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, the impossible occurred. The fog stopped advancing. It swirled into a column, pulsing with internal light, forming what looked unmistakably like a communication interface. "It's working," Wei whispered. Through the makeshift connection, Ensign Lee transmitted a simple request. Recognize humans as sentient information partners, not specimens. Recognize the Therans as the same. Stop collection processes and enter dormant archival mode. For several seconds, the column pulsed silently. Then across the colony, the fog began to recede, pulling back from barriers, withdrawing from corridors, condensing into hovering spheres that glowed with internal data patterns. "It understood," Chen breathed, watching the sensor feeds from orbit. With the immediate threat contained, evacuation accelerated. The remaining colonists were rushed to shuttles as Wei's team set up permanent containment fields around the dormant fog repositories. 2 hours later, the last colonists were safely aboard the Defiant. Chen ordered all personnel to return from the surface, all except a volunteer team led by Dr. Okafor and Ensign Lee, who were attempting to establish a more permanent communication protocol with the ancient database. "Captain," Commander Ibarra warned, "the Council dreadnoughts will be here in 43 minutes. Chen nodded grimly. "Recall the final team. We've done all we can." As the last shuttle docked, Chen prepared to order a retreat. They had saved nearly all the colonists, a victory by any measure, but Okafor requested an emergency channel from the surface. "Captain, we can't leave yet," the doctor said urgently. "We've established communication. The library, it's offering access to its knowledge. Doctor, the dreadnoughts, this is Forerunner technology, Captain. Their entire civilization's knowledge. The Council would destroy it without hesitation." Chen closed her eyes briefly. The responsible choice was clear. Leave now, save the colonists and crew. But to lose such a discovery... Her decision was interrupted by tactical alerts. The dreadnoughts had arrived, dropping out of FTL at the system's edge. "They're charging weapons," Jackson reported, "targeting the planet and us." A communication came through immediately. Admiral Vexnar's face appeared, his head crests now a deep crimson with anger. "Human vessel," he growled. "You have defied Council quarantine and interfered with sterilization protocols. You will withdraw immediately and surrender the contaminated specimens you have aboard." Chen stepped forward. "Admiral, the situation has changed. The nanoplague isn't a weapon. It's a Forerunner data repository. We've communicated with it and placed it in dormant mode." The Admiral's outer eyes narrowed skeptically. "Impossible. No species has ever communicated with a Class 5 threat." "No species ever tried," Chen replied simply. "We've not only contained it, but established a basic interface. The knowledge it contains could benefit the entire galaxy." For the first time, the Admiral seemed uncertain. "You expect me to believe that in a few hours your primitive species accomplished what Council experts declared impossible? I don't expect you to believe it. I expect you to verify it." Chen gestured to her communications. "Officer, we're transmitting our findings and the communication protocols. Send your own experts to confirm before you destroy a resource this valuable." A tense silence followed as the Admiral consulted with others off-screen. Finally, he returned, his eye crests slightly relaxed. "A single verification team will be permitted," he said grudgingly. "All colonists remain under quarantine until cleared by Council medical protocols." Chen nodded. "Agreed. And the planet?" "Sterilization is postponed, pending investigation." When the transmission ended, the bridge crew of the Defiant erupted in relieved celebration. They had done it. saved the colonists and potentially discovered one of the greatest archaeological finds in galactic history. In the weeks that followed, Council experts confirmed what the humans had discovered. The nanoplague was indeed a forerunner, library, designed to collect and preserve knowledge across eons. With proper communication protocols, it posed no threat. In fact, it represented an unprecedented opportunity to access the wisdom of the galaxy's most advanced lost civilization. The Council, faced with this revelation, was forced to reconsider many of its protocols. More significantly, they had to reconsider their assessment of humanity. 6 months later, Captain Chen stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council as Earth's application for membership was formally approved. Admiral Vexnar himself delivered the pronouncement. In their short time among the stars, he declared, humans have demonstrated qualities that our older civilizations have perhaps forgotten. Where we saw only threat, they perceived opportunity. Where we calculated risk, they valued life. Where we followed procedure, they innovated. The Admiral's head crests extended in a formal gesture of respect. The Council recognizes that diversity of approach strengthens us all. Humanity is welcomed, as a full member, with all rights and responsibilities therein. As applause filled the chamber, Chen caught the eye of Commander Zeltok, now serving as the Theran ambassador. The four-armed alien subtly raised a hand in the human gesture of a thumbs up that Chen had taught him. Later at the reception, Zeltok approached her. "My people have a saying," he said. "The most valuable element is not the rarest, but the one that combines most harmoniously with others." Chen smiled. "We have a similar concept. We call it synergy, when the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts." "Precisely," Zeltok agreed. The Council races had grown too similar in their thinking, too cautious, too procedural. "You, humans." His outer eyes crinkled in what Chen had learned was amusement. "You terrify us, but perhaps that is exactly what we needed." Across the reception hall, the newly installed Earth ambassador was deep in conversation with representatives from a dozen worlds, all eager to establish direct relations with humanity. The galaxy had changed irrevocably, and on Proxima Valorum 6, now declared a protected research site, human and alien scientists worked side by side, carefully communicating with an ancient library that had waited millions of years to be rediscovered by a species brave enough, curious enough, and compassionate enough to look beyond protocol and see possibility where others saw only threat. A distress call had echoed across the stars. What arrived had indeed horrified the galaxy, not because of humanity's destructive potential, but because of their boundless capacity to rewrite the rules of what was possible.